Get ready for a story that is, well, almost statistically impossible. It's about a family legacy, a truly brutal test of faith, and maybe most importantly, how the stories we tell ourselves can literally become our most powerful tools for survival. So let's set the stage. We're in Florida. It's one of those hot, humid nights where the air is thick. And this is where it all comes to a head. This is the moment a whole lifetime of really strange coincidences gets put to the ultimate test. And the story kicks off with just pure visceral shock, a sudden, violent impact. And you need to remember this, because this moment, it's the catalyst for absolutely everything that's about to unfold. The person at the center of all this is a musician, kind of a free spirit, living life on his own terms. He calls himself homeless on purpose. And then, in an instant, his world is just shattered by a hit-and-run driver who doesn't even stop. The physical damage was just awful. I mean, an arm broken in 3 places. But you know what was worse? The spiritual damage. Lying there in the silence of that hotel room, unable to even play his guitar, he had this fundamental choice to make. Is this the end of my story? Or is it somehow the beginning of a new one? Now, to really understand the choice he ended up making, we've got to rewind. We need to go back and understand this strange and powerful family history that pretty much shaped his entire worldview. And this is where the story gets really fascinating. You see, this family took a common superstition and just flipped it completely on its head. For most people, 13 is a number you avoid, right? Bad luck. Not for them. For them, it was like a family seal, a source of identity, like they were chosen. And this slide right here shows you exactly why they felt that way. Just look at these dates. His grandmother, his father, his mother, and then him. All born on the 13th of the month. The odds of that happening in a direct family line, well, they're astronomical. It's a pattern so profound, you can totally understand why they believed it had to mean something. But wait, it gets even more specific. Within this legacy, there was this kind of special inner circle. The narrator and his Grammy were both born on a Friday the 13th. He called them the Friday bookends. They shared what he described as this knowing, intuitive connection. His parents, on the other hand, were the lucky charm energy in the middle. And this quote just captures that bond perfectly. It wasn't about small talk for them. It was about this deep, silent recognition. When she looked at him, she didn't see a statistical anomaly. She saw a mirror. She saw someone who shared her exact frequency, her kind of sight. Okay, so fast forward to 2012. This is the year things get intense. This is when the family legacy went from being a cool quirk to something that felt cosmic, inescapable, and honestly, pretty haunting. On February 13th, his mother's birthday, his father passed away. Can you imagine? A tragic, heartbreaking alignment of dates that fused celebration and grief into a single day. Forever. Then, just a few months later, Mother's Day fell on May 13th, his deceased father's birthday. It's like the calendar was folding in on itself, weaving their lives and their deaths together through the number 13. After everything that happened in 2012, he entered what he calls the 13 frequency. The number was no longer just on birth certificates. It was suddenly everywhere. On clocks, addresses, license plates. It had become the constant soundtrack to his life. And that brings us right back to that silent hotel room in Fort Myers. His body is broken, this entire heavy legacy is swirling in his mind, and he has to decide what it all means. Is this thing a curse, or is it a calling? This was the question at the absolute heart of it all. And the distinction is so incredibly powerful. The facts of what happened are the same, but the narrative, the story you choose to tell yourself, changes everything. It's the difference between being a victim and becoming the hero of your own story. To make that choice, he created this powerful metaphor for himself, the shotgun. Now, it wasn't a physical thing, it was his spirit, his legacy, weaponized against the crushing weight of despair and all those voices telling him his luck had finally run out. And this was his conclusion. He decided to reframe his entire life. The 13th legacy wasn't some curse that led him to that roadside. No, it was the source of his resilience, a deep, inherited strength that was going to get him through this. Now, making that choice was one thing, actually living it was something else entirely. This next part is all about the profound shift in his philosophy and how he began to rebuild his life from the ground up. But maybe the most surprising part of all this is that his true spiritual surrender didn't come from the trauma of the crash itself. No, it came from the maddening frustration of not being able to do a simple thing, like tie his shoe. In a moment of anger, he kicked a chair, snapped his toe, and finally realized that fighting his limitations was only breaking him even more. So he adopted this new strategy. First, he surrendered to the present moment. Just be where you are. Second, he let go of all the big plans for the future. And third, he focused only on what he could do right now with what he had. And this is a brilliant example of that third step. His hands couldn't play a guitar, but his finger could still tap a phone screen. So he started making music on apps, letting songs take as long as they needed. It was a total rebirth, finding a new organic rhythm for his life and his art. So what does this all add up to? Well, he took this incredibly strange personal history, filtered it through unimaginable trauma, and emerged with a completely new understanding of his purpose. The lessons from this journey are just so powerful. We see that framing our own story isn't just an exercise, it's a critical survival tool, that the unique, even strange patterns in our lives can be sources of incredible strength. It shows that even devastating trauma can become a catalyst for reinvention. And ultimately, it reminds us that a legacy isn't just something you inherit, it's something you actively choose to build every single day. This whole story really leaves us with one final crucial question to ask ourselves. We all have patterns, quirks, recurring themes in our own lives. So what if that thing you've been seeing as a weight or even a curse is actually trying to tell you something? What if it's your calling?